Well, hello, Mark and Lori. Welcome to Rebuilding My Health Radio. I'm so excited to have you here today to share Mark's health story and then Lori's perspective of also kind of helping him with his health journey.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us here. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, definitely. I've been looking forward to this one. So, Mark, let's just kind of go back like a few years and talk about like what was going on with your health and how did that affect your life?
Well, I guess I was just living the standard American diet and working and trying to make a living, bouncing around from diet to diet, trying to stay on a health journey, but just a yo-yo effect. And back in 2020, I just was on vacation with the family in Big Bear and looking back at the photos and then going for a little quarter-mile walk down to the lake and coming back and getting a fever and just looking at the photos, I said, this don't look good, big old fat guy and kind of looked like death coming, wasn't good.
Yeah, and I imagine you didn't feel well.
No, I got a fever just from a little walk, and it's like, oh, something's wrong here.
Yeah. And at the time, what were your diagnoses?
Back then I was, the first part I was way over 300 pounds, and I had pancreatitis back in 2010. And then, that's when the doctor put me on diabetic medication, and I was trying to work with the doctors on bringing things down and getting better, but I lost a little bit of weight, but the diabetes never got any better. So I tried my own things, and of course the calorie cutting and not eating food, and that never works because you're always hungry, you want more food.
Mm-hmm.
So basically you eat the wrong foods, I would think.
Yeah.
Just went the wrong way, really.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And you were on also cholesterol and blood pressure medication
Correct.
as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Metformin, two different blood pressure or diabetes medications and blood pressure, cholesterol. And then I decided I didn't want to do any of those things. So I worked on getting rid of them.
Yeah. And I know that your family has kind of a scary family health history as well, which I imagine kind of was like a cloud over everything as well.
Oh yeah, I'm getting up there in age, where my dad was, and he had diabetes and lost limbs from it. So I didn't want to go down that path either. So I started kind of seeing that happen, and I said, oh, got to do something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And fortunately, you had someone in your life who had kind of been down this path before your sister. Right. So kind of, like what kind of motivated you to just like finally say, let's do something, to kind of reach out to her about working on it?
Well, we ended up at Thanksgiving, the family food and stuff. And I saw how much healthier she looked and how happy she was, and she just looked, really happy at what she was doing, and it kind of started to rub off on me. I said, well, if she could do it, well, why can't I? So sat down, worked out a program till she worked her program and told me how that goes, and sat down and did it.
Awesome. Sounds like you were like pretty committed. You were like, okay, I'm going to do this.
Well, have to. It's, the life I lived for the past 60 plus years wasn't working. Mm-hmm. So I had to do something, and it's not just a diet. You got to change your lifestyle, and you got to do complete different. Start listening to different people and podcasts and following other people instead of listening to the same old stuff I had for the past 60 years, and change my life.
Yeah.
I'm down 70 some pounds, and I mean, that's not counting the 300 I was way before that. But
yeah, impressive. So I know, let's see. So I know you eventually did keto, but did you do something before keto?
I was doing the low carb calorie counting, and
Mhm.
that helped for a little bit, but then I basically stalled, and it was, it wasn't going anywhere, but, I was always hungry. So, that's when I turned to Lori and, started getting her advice, working
Yeah,
on a little bit of
I
stuff.
found it a little alarming that he was trying to eat desserts but counting calories at Thanksgiving. And so that calorie accounting approach that he was doing, it to me, it alarmed me because I'm like, well, you still have your sugar levels turned on. If you eat the sugar, you're not going to get the healing you need. So that's one of the things that I started to train him on right off the bat was, why we need to get rid of sugar out of your diet, and so that you can really get the healing. Because from my perspective and from everything I have learned as for functional nutrition, as long as you're keeping sugar in the diet, you're not going to get the healing that you want, and the weight can rebound because of it.
Mhm. Yeah, so it was almost like a counting calorie approach, but yeah, sugar was still part of the calorie total, and so probably yeah, why he wasn't seeing the progress that he was hoping to see. Yeah. So so what happened when you transitioned to the low carb keto diet? Kind of, what changes did you start to see, and how quickly?
Well, it was a lot of, well, I had better focus for one thing. So now I could focus on the change and do my eating better, find the proper foods, getting more protein, getting rid of the sugars, the seed oils, which is hard to do. Really had to start learning to read labels and understand the labels, because I would look at something, oh, keto, oh, okay, that's great. Get it home and it's like, oh man, turn it over and it's got all this sugar in it, seed oil. Just like, wait a minute here. So I really had to get with the program and focus better in the keto, and really help my mind get better. Plus getting out and exercising and walking really helped.
Mhm.
So
Nice. Yeah, fantastic. Um, and Lori, kind of what is would you share just like a little bit of the science behind keto and like kind of why it's so powerful?
Yeah, well, it's so powerful because what keto does for you is it helps you reset your metabolism. And what's happening with most people following the standard American diet is you have insulin resistance. There's just, Dr. Jason Fung puts it so simply and so well said that he just says, diabetes is just too much sugar in the blood. And fatty
Mhm.
liver is too much sugar in the liver. So to get that to heal, to reverse diabetes, you want to take the sugar out of the blood. So basically going for a low sugar diet is lowering the carbohydrates, and then you can get to the point where you can burn all the sugar from the cells in the liver, so you can get to a point where you can actually burn your body fat. Because if you still have sugar in your blood, you really either you're burning glucose and you can't burn stored body fat. So you have to get rid of the sugar in your blood system to burn the stored body fat. But what that also is doing is reversing insulin. It's reversing the insulin resistance, but it's getting rid of the inflammatory response. It's getting rid of visceral fat. So you're turning off inflammation in the body. And that's why I don't like to leave sugar in, because sugar creates that storm to begin with.
Mhm.
And to really practice reversing a disease in the body, you'll have to get that inflammation under control. And that's one of the things Mark learned is, like, one time I was telling him, I said, are you tracking your visceral fat? When he's like, I don't see a change on the scale. And he was a little frustrated. And then I'm like, well, you need to track your visceral fat. Are you really losing that internal body fat? And that's when he got a new scale and started a new tracking process. And he was super excited to be able to see that he's getting the progress by tracking visceral fat and reducing inflammation inside his body. So getting on a low carb diet helps you reduce that inflammation. It's practicing epigenetics. It's like turning off the disease causing genes in your body so that you could have health again. And you have to take out the interferences. And that's what I practice. And that's why I don't have diabetes diabetes. And because we have the same genes, Mark and I, as my
Mhm.
sister who died from obesity and my dad who died from the obesity, diabetes, and kidney disease in the end. We just chose to change our diet and use low carb as a tool, keto as a tool. And it doesn't have to be forever. If you don't want it to be forever, just get to your maintenance point and then bring yourself
Mhm.
back to more of a higher carb ancestral health diet. But using keto as a tool turns off that inflammation, burns off all that sugar in your body, and voila, you don't have to have diabetes. And that's what Dr. Jason Fung does. He reverses diabetes by fasting people. And that's
Mhm.
what Mark became, just a fasting champ. He would do 5 days at a time.
Wow, that's amazing. Super interesting mechanism for how it works. So, and Mark, I want to acknowledge it can be really tough to change your diet. I mean, I've been there. I've done it kind of like pretty, kind of overnight, dramatically change your diet. So, what was helpful for you in making that change and kind of sticking to it?
The change in my moods and my, of course, the figure itself, you start seeing pounds come off, and then, I think when I got on the scale with the visceral fat showing that, okay, well, this is going down too, it's like, well, I'm doing something right, I need to stick with it. Like I say, I got to change my life and got to do what's working and get away from what wasn't working. So, and then the biggest thing is what we've been told all our life is, fat's bad for you, salt's bad for you. All these things that are bad for you are really not what's bad for us, and then, but it's hard to learn that you can eat fat and get skinny,
Yeah.
and you can have salt and not go bad.
Right.
But the sugar is worse for me than anything else. Makes
Mhm.
me hungrier and eat more junk. And
Yeah.
so I saw the changes and I sticked with them because it was working.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of
Yeah.
the biggest ones was that food sensitivity test that he took. He could see it in black and white to see, well, geez, these are
Right.
the foods I'm eating. And,
Mhm.
I'm just going to stop eating them. And that was a really big, powerful change for him to see that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were some of the big sensitive foods?
For me, it was wheat, dairy, and then some hidden ones I didn't realize was my favorite fruits, strawberries and peaches.
Oh,
So, of course, I mean, I ate them all the time and then that was my worst. So seeing that, it's like, okay, no more. Even though I can have them occasionally, it's like I don't need to. So
mhm,
there's plenty of other fruits, berries, and everything else I can still have. And that's the
mhm.
good thing about the sensitivity food test is your MRT is you can see, they give you a chart, you can go over it and you can start from what doesn't hurt your body and then go from there and start off with those and work your way back up to the other things, but just stay away from anything in the red and yellow chart and you're obviously
Mhm.
it's going to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you were doing kind of keto modified based on your personal food sensitivities.
Right.
Sounds like. Yeah.
Intermittent fasting.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I basically took my sensitivity food as my shopping list. I went down the list. Okay, what is the least amount I can have or the least sensitive to my body? And I would get more of those things from the store than anything else, and then work my way down the list and
Mhm.
stay away from the bottom of the list.
Yeah, that's a really smart way to do it. Yeah, is just take that list of the things that are low sensitivity and work your way around
And
the
then it lets your
store.
body heal while you're
Mhm.
working around all the other stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Yes.
when thinking about the positive part of that is like what I get to eat versus, oh, I can't eat this. And, look at it more
Mhm.
positively
Right,
that like Mark was doing. Oh, look at all the greens that I can eat. I can go and eat all these things. They don't bother
Mhm.
my body. And that's going to help me with my health. And, is very
right.
positive about that. That's a good way to look
Mhm.
at it.
And like I
Yeah.
couldn't have egg whites, but egg yolks, which,
Mhm.
of course, doctors always like, oh, eggs are bad, stay away from egg yolk, but yet egg yolk is good for me. But then again, I lived close to a Vietnamese community, so I went and got duck eggs. And duck eggs are just fine. So I
Oh,
can have the
wow.
whole thing.
Oh, wow. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool. So were there other tests that you two ran together that were insightful that kind of also helped with other aspects of his healing?
I did a GI test, and then I did
Mhm.
the P test. So I checked,
Mhm.
my gut and other things. Lori knows the names of I don't know the name.
The Dutch hormone test.
Dutch
He did the
hormone,
Dutch
that's what it
complete
was.
hormone test and the GI map test
Right.
with a stool test.
Yeah.
And had a few gut problems with leaky gut, H. pylori, found out. And
Mhm.
without those being discovered and being fixed, you're basically, even no matter what you do with the food, most likely probably isn't going to help.
Mhm. Yeah. So you did some gut healing,
Right.
I'm sure. Yeah. And and the good diet helps with the gut healing as well, kind of contributes to all that. Nice. So, and then other lifestyle changes, you mentioned walking or exercising. So,
Right.
mainly walking, or tell me more about that.
Um, mainly walking actually it's bike riding at first, because I was doing biking before I really did much else. And I would go out for hours on end, but I think the biking I would do too much and actually put more stress on my body. So I started walking more. And then after that, when I got most of the weight down, I started going back to weights and working out and putting more muscle on. Probably should have started that sooner into the journey than later, but I was afraid once I started working out before I put on weight, I'm like, oh no, I'm gaining weight. But I'm gaining muscle too. But that was before I had the good scale. I could check those things for the muscle quality and visceral fat being lost. And I was more worried about the numbers. But then once I got things where I could see all the numbers and keep my weight under control, even though, putting on muscle, sure, I'm going to gain 5 pounds back, but still going to look better, so it really doesn't matter in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Yeah, I kind of have kind of, a mix of things that you do. And I think you're walking like 5 or 10 miles a day, is that right?
Minimum of 5.
Yeah.
I've done
Wow.
10 to actually 12, I think is my most. But that one time I was in Europe too, and I got on the wrong side of town. I picked downtown, but it was in Bucharest,
Oh my gosh.
Romania, and I'm like, I wanted to be down by the old town. I was 10 miles away from there, so I took a taxi down and walked back one day, so I was like 12-mile walk. But
Wow. It must have been a super interesting and lovely walk to walk
it
10 miles
was,
in
yeah.
Bucharest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. I mean, would you, and like the thought of that now, thinking, 3 years ago, the thought of walking 12 miles, what would that have been like for you?
Uh, Probably painful for one, because when I first retired, I was walking around the block and just having knee pain, and I couldn't even walk like up and down like some little, not the curb but the driveways where they just kind of slope down. I had to walk to the upper part, and it was I'd always come back with knee pain and back pain and had to come home and pop ibuprofen and screw up my gut even more. And it's like it was just trying to help, but it wasn't helping.
Oh, yeah, right, right. So tell me kind of where you've gotten to at this point. You have kind of officially sort of reverse diabetes? Is that
Well,
fair to say?
the doctors say I'm under control, and that's a good thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, like I say, I started off in 2010, I was 300. Then when I finally in Big Bear in 2020, I was around about I don't know, when I checked the scale, I was 245. And then, well, I was at the doctor, so I went ahead and I went down to at the doctor's with shoes, clothes on, pockets full of stuff, cell phone. At the doctor's, I was in 2021, I was down to 174 at the doctor's with clothes on. So, and then in 2019, before I started, my blood glucose was up to 8.5. My level, it was 200 and 201 if I prick my finger at the doctor's there. And then my lowest was recently 108, and I'm down to 6 on A1C, but my fasting insulin was 1 a while back, and now it's 2 for my fasting insulin. And the doctors are happy with those numbers and the weight, and said my BMI is under normal. And, it's kind of a good thing when the doctors are happy with things like that. So.
Yeah, and I'm curious, when you went back in and the doctors kind of saw your weight and your new levels and such, what did they say? What was the reaction?
She was kind of shocked. Actually, the nurse herself said she said I was unrecognizable from what I was. She said, I can't believe you're the same person. And I had some comments, some people are afraid to ask me, well, like at a family beach thing, it was like one of my relatives are like, man, I was afraid to ask. I thought maybe you had cancer or something,
Wow.
because I had dropped so much weight, and they thought I dropped the weight because I had cancer, like majorly affecting me. So, but it's just weight loss from, the food and the training and walking and lifestyle change.
Now,
Yeah.
one of the things that Mark noticed was when he was riding his bike, he had an Aura ring. He had an Aura ring on, and he could actually track his heart rate and everything. And he noticed that he seemed to have a higher heart rate. He had more stress, and the bike riding was creating too much stress and causing more problems with, maybe up and down weight gain. And so that's when he transitioned more into walking and noticed that he had better stress reduction. And then he started getting more sunlight and grounding, and it really made a big difference for his lifestyle management.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting, and I guess kind of points to the importance of really watching your body and tracking and finding the thing that's right for you on diet and exercise. So I'm kind of curious, like now the maintenance diet, like it sounds like you're not keto all the time, but kind of you're always low carb. But what does that look like?
Well, keto, they basically suggest coming in and out because you don't want to totally stay in ketosis. So I'm kind of keto, carnivore, and fruits and vegetables occasionally, don't want to add too much sugar. And some of the plants have, bad lectins, and basically want to stay away from the bad plants that are not so good for me to eat. But if my body likes them, it's good. If not, then I try to stay away from them. So the main thing is really cutting the sugar, getting rid of that, cooking more at home because seed oils is just about everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Luckily, I live in a kind of a Hispanic neighborhood where a lot of the restaurants still believe in using lard. So I don't have to worry about the fancy restaurants that want to use their seed oils, you know, at least my neighborhood, they like to use family remedies, and which is good.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and it's funny because like lard is back. Like it's
right, yeah,
now better than vegetable oil. So,
exactly. Well, the smart people that use it all their life are still using it.
yeah. Right, right. It's interesting because there's a Mexican restaurant we go to all the time, and it says on their menu, we don't use lard in our refried beans, because that's been, that's a thing that they put lard in the refried beans. And it's just funny to like read that and go, oh, they're trying to make a point that they're being, healthy, but yeah, anyway,
Right,
it can be a healthier fat than other fats. Yeah,
right.
for sure. Let's see. I also wanted to ask you about fasting. Like now, like how often are you fasting, or what is your fasting window look like too?
It varies every day, but generally I'm trying to transition to a more protein earlier in the day, and getting away from, well, I really started before, when I was on the beginning, I would not eat past 5 o'clock. I would always be done with everything, and then kitchen closed, and then I would get up in the morning and I would have, basically I would have like elementary salt water, LMT, and I would drink my salt water in the morning, get started with that. Then I'd have a coffee, then make it a protein-based coffee where I add some MCT oil, and I stopped putting the ghee in it, but then I would add collagen. And nowadays I'm into mixing it with more powdered fruits and vegetable powders, making it more of a smoothie type thing in the morning. Like I call it a vitamin water, where I put all my liquid and powdered vitamins in the drink and mix it up in the morning. And that's usually around 9 o'clock or 10. So I don't know, I'm getting a good 12 to 14 hours of fasting every day. And then a few times a month, I don't know, it just depends. Sometimes I go up, there's no meat thought. It's like, okay, I guess I'm fasting. So I just don't go on a fast, and I say 24 hours, but it ends up being 30, 40. It's like, okay, well, I'm not hungry yet. No biggie. Wait till tomorrow. Then tomorrow comes, I start my morning routine and say, okay, I guess I'll eat after I do my coffee. And so it comes out like, it turns out pretty simple. You think about it, because most of the time you're sleeping. So just keep on doing that.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. Very interesting. So yeah, I guess in all of this, has there been anything that's been kind of unexpected? Like, my personal experience is like when I started doing health stuff, like, weird pains went away, like an ankle injury that I'd had for 30 years. Like that pain went away because like I didn't have inflammation. So were there other unexpected things that sort of happened for you in all of this?
Well, there's some guy things. Can I mention that?
So, sorry, somewhat.
Some guy things that girls aren't
Oh.
familiar with. But anyway, your body deteriorates, things stop working.
Yeah.
Guys are supposed to have things happen in the morning, and it's like it kind of stopped for a while, and it's like you don't realize it.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, as I start healing in the morning, things are all of a sudden working again. It's like, oh, well, it's doing something right there.
So yeah, super interesting. Yeah, kind of like when your systems are working. Yeah.
Everything started clicking and working again, and it's like that was a surprise. I didn't even realize it wasn't until it starts working. It's like, oh, okay, that's supposed to happen.
Right.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Well, how about like mindset? I know mindset was big. Anything, you can, like, any advice you can offer in terms of, how to approach this mindset wise?
Well, bottom line, you have to look at it like an investment for your body now, instead of paying medical bills later. And you also have to go into it that, okay, I'm going to do it, and not get in there like, well, I'm going to cheat and I'm going to do this and that. It's like you have to do it. If you don't do it, it's not going to happen. I mean, you can't go to the gym and sit there and talk with your friends and expect to build muscle. It's not going to work. You need to do the work for it to pay off, and put your mind. In fact, you're going to be better off with your mind when you do it, because you're going to be happier and know you did it. You're not going to be fighting with yourself thinking, oh, maybe I should do this, maybe I shouldn't. Just, I don't know. I just have a strong mindset. When I want to do something, I do it. So I just do it and get it over with.
Awesome. Yeah.
Will it help?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because it's not easy to sort of change those lifelong habits of cooking and shopping and ways of eating and all that, for sure. So if you have any like other friends or family members kind of look to you and gone, well, I think I want to try some of the stuff Mark's trying.
Yeah, I think we have another sister and brother, both. They're on the wagon, but they've been working part-time at it, and sister's doing really good. She's dropped quite a few pounds, and her doctor's telling her she's doing better. Another brother, he had a complication with some heart problems, on the job, and so he's starting to get better at his stuff. He still has a little bit of trouble with it, but he's also has a problem. He can't really do his own cooking, because when he's on the road working, he's not able to cook himself, so he's got to deal with processed stuff and other stuff like that. So
yeah, which is really tough. It's tough to find what you need when you're traveling, when you're on the road. Yeah, I hear that. And somebody posted recently that just like grilled chicken at Chick-fil-A like has all this extra stuff in it. It's not just chicken with salt and pepper on it. It's like, oh no.
I saw that one. A whole bunch of oils, preservatives, sugars. I mean, it had a paragraph long of ingredients for grilled chicken. I mean, just chicken, salt, and some butter would be great.
I know. And you don't expect that, because like when I'm traveling, I'm just looking for the basics. Like, can I just get like a, basic piece of chicken or whatever? And you don't expect all the other stuff to be in there. So you gotta.
That was one of the big things that Mark had to learn. Like you were saying, he had to read the labels, and every time he would find the vegetable oils in it, he would actually have a reaction in his throat, and he would have to clear his throat, and he'd look at the labels and, oh my God, there's vegetable oil in that. No wonder. And so he got to the point where he could notice that every time he cleared his throat, he would check the label, and sure enough, it was the vegetable oils that were causing him to react to that.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
Yeah, when I was on a bike ride one time, I came back and I made a post-energy drink, not drink, energy, but a post-workout drink with ice in the mix in the water. And my eyes started running, my nose was running, I started hacking. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? It's just a post-workout drink. But I mean, my body was completely empty of anything else. Finally, I read the label, it had sucralose in it.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh man, it's real tiny at the bottom, And then another time it was with my guacamole, it was avocado, onion, salt, pepper, and garlic. And I'm like, my nose is running. I said, man, what's going on? I read the garlic, sunflower oil in the garlic. I'm like, wait a minute here. This is garlic.
Yeah.
Sunflower oil in it. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah. That's super frustrating.
But when you get your body in sync, you start to realize when you do things, what's bad for you, because you can sense them right away. It's like, well, if your nose starts running, it's like something's wrong here.
Yeah. Yeah. That is really interesting. So it's nice you kind of have that internal sensor now to
Right.
kind of like root out the bad stuff for
Yeah,
you.
once you take out your food sensitivities and start living without those symptoms, and then you bring back the food, you're able to hear the noise in your body again and to notice the inflammatory response happening. And I'll
Mhm.
notice that too with dairy. When I have dairy, I try not to do it very often, but when I do like a yogurt, that might get me. I'll have yogurt and then I'll immediately have mucus and start clearing my throat. And anytime I'm eating something that maybe got contaminated, I'll start clearing my throat. So it's just something you notice right away once you've cleaned up your diet and are able to listen to the inflammatory response coming at you quickly.
Yeah. Right, right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I'll say to my husband, like, oh, I'm feeling a little inflamed today. Like, I think something I ate yesterday was inflamed and made me inflamed. And he's like, what? How do you know that? And I'm like, my hands are puffy. My hands get puffy.
Yeah,
So,
I
yes.
actually had the bottom of my elbows. I'll put my elbows on the tabletop and I would feel a pain in my elbows. And that was one of my alarm systems, my early on alarm systems. I haven't felt it in a really long time, but that would be something where I would feel inflammation at the bottom of my
Mhm.
elbows. And I'm like, oh, what did I eat? What's causing that?
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
interesting.
Yeah. It makes you go, okay, what did I eat yesterday?
Mhm.
And what's going on? Well, Mark, any kind of last advice you would give to others who maybe are kind of where you were a few years ago and wanting to make a change?
Well, you just, like I say, you got to set your mind for it, for your lifestyle. It's like it's what you've been doing is wrong. So why not jump on the bandwagon and change it? Like me, I live in Orange County and it's like, gluten free and all these terms are like, oh, Gucci, and it's like, like too prissy, and it's like, and I did my food sensitivity test, and it's like, well, I'm gluten free. It's like, so it's not really a Gucci thing. It's like what my body wants, and but getting the test, you gotta, you could look at it red, white, and I mean not red and white, but red, yellow, and green. Everybody knows those colors, and it straightens your body out. And if you see it, it's like basically black and white, but in color. And just gotta do it,
Yeah.
because if you're not gonna make any changes, doing what you've been doing. I know there's a saying there somewhere, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically with the investment that you put in yourself, you bought back so much more time and living to your life and you've got more longevity happening because I mean, if you look back at where our dad died at 65, you're 62 now. That was where you were headed was, you were headed into a decline and,
right,
they wanted to put you on insulin for your diabetes and you said, no, let me try diet and look
right,
at where you've come. I mean, what I have seen with him is, buying clothes that make him feel good, getting shoes that match his clothes, a smile back on his face. I mean, this is worth the investment because you get your life back to be able to enjoy what time we do have left for ourselves in quality life and not in having to, not be able to walk, not leave the house and to be inflamed and on medication.
Mhm.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's an important message that you don't have to get worse as you get older. You can feel better as you get older.
Well, I'm getting better too. And another
Yeah.
thing about like, going to Whole Foods or something, buying, let's say, the more expensive whole paycheck place to buy more food, it's like, well, now you're not buying the crap that you used to in the boxes that actually cost more than buying ground beef, so sticking
Mhm.
with, grass-fed, grass-finished meat, and the things that supposedly are more money, but in the long run, they
Mhm.
really aren't, because you're just not, but you're buying more money on meat maybe, but you're not buying the excess garbage that goes with it. So your grocery bill doesn't go up because you're getting rid of so much other stuff that's in there.
Yeah. absolutely true. I think a box of cereal last I looked was like $10. So,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
you know,
I haven't even looked, so I don't know.
the process stuff is not cheap. Well, Mark, thank you so much for your willingness to share your story. I know it is going to inspire others. It's so impressive, and really appreciate that. Lori, thank you for coming on to, kind of also, tag team on this and kind of share the health coach insight, nutritionist insight. Lori, where can folks find and follow you?
I'm on Instagram at Lori Balue. So that's LORIBALU and weight loss. So Lori Balue weight loss is my Instagram. And then on Facebook, I'm at Lori Balue Aging Adventurously. So you could find me there as well. And then I also have my website, loribalue.com. So I guess there's no other Lori Balues. So
there's no other
loribalue.com.
Nice. Well, good. Well, thank you, both of you, for your time and for coming on today. It was such a pleasure talking with you, and I know others will enjoy our conversation as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.